Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
Cruising your way on this episode of Off 90. We visit a company in Faribault that's been in business since the Civil War. In Rochester, we attend an exhibit at the Creative Salon. We learn about a conservationist from Winona. And we check out a geological wonder. It's all just ahead, Off 90. Hi, I'm Barbara Keith. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Off 90. In the spirit of the shepherds, spinners, and weavers of old, Faribault Woolen Mill is keeping craftsmanship alive as they create beautiful blankets from wool. The mill recently celebrated its 150th anniversary. The company that began as a small mill on the bank of the Cannon River now exports around the world, still using the same careful techniques, from fiber to finished product.
Well, the first time I came down to visit the mill was in March 8th of 2011. And I recall the day I came down, it was a cold day, and I was told that in the fall of 2010 there'd been a flood on the river here, a 500-year flood, and it had left about 10 feet of water in the lower level. You know, we go down into this very dirty, messy, smelly basement, and that's my introduction. When you think of Carl Clemmer starting a business in 1865 at the end of the Civil War, Lincoln was president, and he starts with a one-horse treadmill-powered carding machine that he carded wool for batting from local farmers for quilts. It's such a interesting story, just thinking of the time of that, and then so end of the Civil War, through world wars, through the Great Depression, through many economic cycles, that the Clemmers and the Johnsons and the employees that passed through here really made this what it is.
This company was founded by the Clemmers, and they lived in this area, and it was passed down for generations, and the Johnsons were in it, and they were passed down for generations. My name is Mary Boudreau. I've been working here at the Faribault Woolen Mill for 60 years. I've been in the weave shop all the time. Right now, I'm just here working and trying to train people and whatever needs to be done. Things have changed in the years I have been here. Mainly machinery and adding on to the building, making more room and more machines and faster. And different blankets, different patterns we're making, and it all changes, something new, new designs.
I remember very early on, because we hadn't seen a machine turn on here, so one of the things when we bought it, we didn't even know if anything actually worked. And we certainly didn't know how to make it work, but as things would turn on, if we were up in this side of the building, we'd get a phone call on our cell phone that said, hey, a carding machine is turned on. You know, the spinning frames are on, a loom is running. And you go back down, and this place that was quiet, dark, cold, all of a sudden was coming back to life. And you could really feel it come back to life.
And so to see the mill come back to life after it was closed for a couple of years is not only a sense of pride, but it's almost a sense of obligation to continue it on its journey. I'm Terry Mockentune. I'm the CEO here at Faribault Woolen Mill. I think a lot of what we talk about here at the mill is that this has been on a journey for over 150 years. That there is no final destination for a company that has been passed from generation to generation and from different workforce to different workforce. to a community, they have participated in that journey for over 150 years.
This mill is one of the last fully integrated mills in the United States, meaning we start with a bale of wool. So we start with the fiber, and everything that's, every process is applied under the roof of this building, so there's nothing outsourced. So we start with the raw fiber. It's dyed. If it needs to be dyed, it will be dyed. It will be then carded and turned into yarn, and then woven, and then we'll go through a wet processing process, drying, napped, cut, sewn, finished, and packaged and labeled, and so literally the whole thing happens right here. So this is a unique place in that everything happens here. There's 22 processes that are applied.
A lot of the equipment here at the mill, while it might be old, is also how it's still done. A lot of the other woolen mills, like a Pendleton or a Woolridge, use similar equipment as ours. The skilled workforce today that runs a lot of this these are guys and gals that either grew up on farms or like being around the auto industry. They're people that are very good with their hands. They like to mechanically think about how things can be taken apart and put back together, a real kind of mechanical engineering background.
You know, it's really a great feeling to work here, and now that we celebrated our 150th year, we're a big asset to the community with the people we employ, and our product is sold all over. We have a great variety of stuff going all over. Nice new patterns, and it's really good. So it's just kind of special to see something out in the market that you help make. A lot of people have had blankets for a long, long time, and I know I have one at home that my mother and dad got for their 50th wedding anniversary, and I forgot what year that was, but I was still in high school at that time, so. But I still have it, and it's just like new yet.
Some of the stories that I resonate the most with here are stories that relates to people getting their issued World War I or II green standard issue blanket and carrying those with them into the European theater or even the Pacific theater on that war front. And for me, that really brings alive what we do here when you can look back at pictures and stories and think about how this business has had a relationship with our United States Armed Forces for all these years, and has really played a role in this, the successful proliferation of democracy, I guess if you want to say that, and freedom throughout this world. And I think that is what we need to continue to breathe into our product here as we expand and grow as a company.
Women's identities are multifaceted. Women are expected to be multiple people in one body. This is created by outside views and inner dialogue. Rochester artist Cassandra Buck has created a series of pieces documenting this struggle. Each work of art represents a woman that was interviewed to complete the project. Cassandra Buck presented her work at the Creative Salon in Rochester. Her exhibit was called Herself, a series about identity.
Biggest drawback is time, finding the time. I have to find the time, because if I don't, then I kind of turn into a crazy person. It's like therapeutic for me. I really need to make art. If I don't, then it's just not good. Like I breathe, you eat, you sleep, and make art. I've been an artist since I was in 6th grade. I've loved art my whole life, but I really honed in on it when I was in 6th grade. I remember the specific moment when it kind of clicked. I was drawing something and everything kind of fell into place. It was like an aha moment. That's what teachers call it, aha moments, when things just click. I decided to become an art teacher, and then I started focusing as well as being a teacher on my own artwork. A motto that I tell my students is fail forward. So you fail, you're like, oh no, what did I do? You learn from it and you move forward. The huge sign in my room that says that. You know, I'm drawn to abstract, but I'm also drawn to figurative work. So it just has to speak to me. It doesn't have to be in a necessary, like a specific genre. It just needs to make me feel something. And if it can do that, then that totally draws me in, and that actually acts as inspiration for my artwork. I do figurative work, but I also have been focusing more on abstract, and lately mixed media using found objects, especially items that would be thrown away. Instead of throwing them away, I use them in my artwork. So kind of like upcycling pieces and turning it into something beautiful. I have an exhibit called Herself, a series about identity. My interpretation of that is there's this metal like exterior, she's strong and she's kind of pushing that out to everybody, or if that's what everyone sees, but then there's this really flimsy plastic, like see-through on the inside part, and then, you know, we've, obviously the marble is a person. That's how I, you know, she's like in this little pocket of, you know. And I interviewed 15 different women, and in these interviews I asked them 3 questions. I asked them, how do you view yourself? How do you think others view you? And how many different roles do you feel you play? And from those interviews, I pulled the most profound or important information, and then I created abstract mixed media pieces from that. Yeah, and so I did gesso, and I didn't like it was flat like that. Yeah, and then I painted over it with that clear gloss stuff, and it really made it pop a lot more. The art scene in Rochester has really exploded. I've said that before, but it has. It's no other way to explain it. We really just all connected and then just started organizing, and stuff just started happening. It's been pretty amazing how fast it's happened. It's kind of like we're a plague. We just took stuff over, and creative plague. About 3 years ago, I just kind of jumped into this stuff that was going on in Rochester with artists and the community, and I really haven't stopped. I've just continually been involved and wanting to create my own artwork and getting other people's artwork out there. And I don't know, it's just kind of been a whirlwind. What do I do for fun? Well, I spend time with my daughter, spend time with my husband, and of course making my art. If I can get a good hour of studio time, that's awesome.
John A. Latsch was a Winona businessman who loved fishing and exploring on the Mississippi River. He was a lifelong patron of conservation and did much to preserve the land in the river valley. However, due to his sense of humility, his efforts remain largely unsung. We went to Winona to discover a little more about the man.
Areas just like this with the maples and the oaks and the river birch hanging over the water is exactly identical to what Latsch would have seen in the late 1800s and early 1900s.
You know, everybody knows about Isaac Walton. Everybody knows about John Muir. Everybody knows about these men who did the same thing that John A. Latsch did. Nobody knows about John A. Latsch because he didn't blow his own horn. John Latsch was the son of 2 Swiss immigrants, And he was born down in Trempealeau, which is downriver from here, at an early age, about 7 years old. His dad was in a farming accident. His dad had a farm. So he picked up the whole family and came over to Winona, which at that time was a burgeoning metropolis, you know, all the lumber that was going on and the commerce, and he started a grocery store. They ran this wholesale business, and it was enormously successful. They ran huge drays. They had stables for their horses. They took groceries all over the region. And then when the railroads, you know, came in, it just made them even more successful, because then things could be shipped around, you know, to the three-state area. His dad died in 1909. His brother died a couple months after that. And that left John A. all alone at the age of 49.
He was never married. He was just not really a loner, because he was also the mayor at times, so he wasn't an introvert, but he was a kind of a quiet, gentle man that enjoyed his time in his canoe out on the river, and that's how he relaxed. It was in 1907 when he, on a Saturday afternoon, decided to take his canoe out from the dock in the levee of the city where he kept it. And this is pre-dam, you have to understand. So there's no dams. It's beautiful backwater areas where there's a main channel, but there's a lot of back channels and rivulets that go through woods and beautiful areas. So he liked to go, surprisingly, upstream. He would paddle upstream. And he did that on this Saturday afternoon. Got about up where what we call Bass Camp now, then it was called Camp Glory. And a thunderstorm came, which they do in the valley fairly quickly, and it drove him to shore. But this day, Farmer Schmong decided that it was his land and he didn't want anybody trespassing. This man was chasing him back into the middle of a thunderstorm, which was very frustrating and maddening to what was a pretty gentle man. And the next day, John Latsch called a friend of his. He had him go and buy the farm from this farmer Schmong without the farmer knowing who bought it, so that Latsch could own it and no one would ever be thrown off it again.
It might not have been the total impetus for John Latsch starting to buy land, because he had been buying up land in Winona before that. The incident with the canoe and being kicked off by a farmer may have pushed him in a direction of buying more and giving more. We're at the Winona Levee, and across the river from us is Latch Island, named after John A. Latsch.
This bridge right next to us from Latch Island goes to what's called Oghaming Park, which is in Wisconsin. That's actually Wisconsin over there. And Oghaming Park is an 1,100-acre park that the city of Winona owns in the state of Wisconsin, again, gifted by John Latsch. It's an absolutely beautiful example of a floodplain forest.
He gave over 20,000 acres to the city, to the state of Minnesota, and to the state of Wisconsin. He gave the land for Perot State Park, for Merrick State Park upriver. He gave a lot of land for Whitewater State Park and other smaller parks. In Winona, we wouldn't have a municipal golf course if it weren't for him. We wouldn't have the ball fields that we have were it not for John Latsch's generosity. So he should be a very important person here, but he's been forgotten for many years.
There's downtown Winona is called, on the riverfront, it's called the Latch Block, because at one time it was all grocery wholesale warehousing and sales stores and storage of their carriages and the horses so they could deliver the groceries. In fact, I've interviewed ladies that were with their fathers that are in their 90s now that received candy from John Latsch in Winona when they'd go into the store with their dad.
When urban renewal came in, and this is 40 years after John Latsch died, the building was torn down. Many people were very upset. It was a gorgeous building, and you know, if you had it today, you'd make condos out of it. John Latsch's first building that he built is on 2nd Street, and is now being restored, and it's the only Latsch building that we have left.
I'm just repeating what the joys for me are, which would be the same back then as to somebody like Latsch. He would climb the bluffs to, again, reconnoiter his canoe routes in this area. That's one thing at the John Latsch State Park that's named after him. The bluffs down there are gorgeous. In fact, the riverboat captains used to use them as directional signals. They're named Hope, Faith, and Charity, the 3 bluffs in the John Latsch Park. Here there's swamp oak and cottonwoods and elms and cherry, and there's a lot of, again, this is floodplain forest, so this is what Latsch would have seen. The spirit is back because we live in such a beautiful place. It's now true that younger types of employees that these industries that are very prevalent in town are trying to hire are very much outdoor enthusiasts. They are kayakers, they are hikers, they are bikers, they are the silent sports generation which love Winona. It's great because it generates a spirit in people that there's greater respect for nature and for what it provides to the soul besides having a job you work. Here was Latsch, you know, working hard, working many hours all week, and yet staying in this benefactor philanthropist role simply by his trips out onto the river maybe once a week.
Forestville Mystery Cave State Park is located in southeastern Minnesota. We explored the dark, subterranean world of Mystery Cave, the longest cave in the state, with its stalactites, stalagmites, and underground pools.
Mystery Cave was actually dug into. That was in 1937 by a man named Joe Petty. And he dug in the very entrance we walked in today. My name is Warren Netherton. I'm the cave specialist at Forestville Mystery Cave State Park. One of the prime features I think about Mystery Cave are the long linear passageways, just long straight avenues that have been the course of waters in the past that have resulted in a network of interconnecting passageways. Under half a square mile, there are 13 miles of passageways. So I think that's one of the most outstanding features of the cave on a whole, is just the layout of it, the morphology of this cave. There are some unique features that are down here. Very unusual mineralogy in this cave. And some of those are just where we were, to the shelf stone, the highly saturated waters that are down here in the pools, just loaded with dissolved limestone and dolomite to the point it can't hold anymore. The deepest pool in the cave would be about 10 feet deep. And so that I'm thinking of Blue Lake. So those are really significant features about this cave. This section of the cave is hardened for the masses of visitors who want to enjoy this wonderful underground experience here.
down to the floor in a process called breakdown.
This tour route that we're on is a scenic tour. It's an incredible experience to walk along this, right on the path that water has taken and is taking that form this place. For a stellar experience underground here, an unforgettable state park experience underground to foster an appreciation of our underground cave resources.
So when we go caving, we carry 3 sources of light with us. You don't want to run out of light, and here's why. So on 3, I'm going to turn my flashlight off. 1, 2, 3. Whoa. Any questions?
That's all for this episode. Please help Off 90 meet its financial obligations by becoming a member of KSMQ Public Television. Give us a call at 507-481-2095 or 1-800-658-2539 or sign up online at ksmq.org. Thanks for watching. Join us next time, Off 90.
Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.